No criminal case in Colorado is under more scrutiny than Tina Peters. Now, one angle to reduce her sentence may be evaporating. As President Trump punishes the state for refusing to free her and Governor Jared Polis considers clemency, an appeals court signaled late last week that a sentencing error could reduce Peters' time in prison. The judges suggested that Peters was convicted and sentenced to a 15-month term on a felony that should have been a misdemeanor. Well, now our Marshall Zellinger has learned that's because that misdemeanor did not exist at the time of the crime.
One of the arguments made in Tina Peters' appeal of her convictions was that a felony conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation charge that came with 15 months in prison should have been a misdemeanor.
That's a clear error.
Her attorneys argued the language in her indictment and the jury instructions described a misdemeanor in state law and not a felony. Colorado's Court of Appeals judges questioned the state about this last week.
It was one word, might, and it was already...
Yeah, but that one word distinguishes it from a felony to a misdemeanor.
And in this case made an extra sentence, 15 more months in the Department of Corrections that couldn't have been given had it been a misdemeanor conviction.
But it turns out that misdemeanor did not exist when Peters committed the crime in 2021. It was a felony at the time.
The law that was in effect at the time the crimes were committed is the law that applies.
9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson confirmed our review of state statute. Peters was charged with felony conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation for a crime that happened between May 23rd and May 27th, 2021. She was charged with a felony because that's how the statute read at the time. In July 2021, the governor signed a misdemeanor reform law making changes to many criminal statutes, including criminal impersonation. That new law with all those changes took effect on March 1st, 2022.
There was no misdemeanor criminal impersonation on these facts when the crime was committed. So the instructions to the jury were accurate.
The conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation charge is about the ID badge she got for a man named Gerald Wood, but then allowed someone else to use that badge to gain access to Mesa County's election equipment. The language of that felony charge said the impersonation might have subjected Wood to a violation of law. Today, that language is for a misdemeanor.
A statute is not retroactive unless lawmakers specifically say it will be.
And when the 2022 law changes went into effect, they were not retroactive. According to Scott Robinson, because the charge is now a misdemeanor, the judge in Mesa County who sentenced Peters could have taken that into account when determining the sentence instead of applying the felony sentence. He could have had discretion to consider, well, since today it's a misdemeanor, maybe I'll sentence you to this.
Boy, it sure would have been useful if the prosecutor up there for the state had these facts at her disposal and could have brought it to the attention of the appeals court as opposed to just getting flogged on that issue for 10 minutes.
I went back and looked through the filings, and it was in the initial appeal, and the state defended it that it was a plain error, like legal language. They didn't argue it wasn't an issue because it wasn't a law at the time. They were arguing as though there was a mistake somewhere along the way, but that the defense at the time from Peters never objected to it during the case.
Also today, her social media team is saying online that she got roughed up in prison last night. She got attacked by another inmate. What, if anything, do we know about that?
We have reached out to the Department of Corrections. We're hoping to find out something by the end of today. We don't have anything official yet, but we're working on getting to the details of that.
All right, Marshall, thank you. Denver was reeling from the recent news that Bo Nix broke his ankle when another alert hit our phones on Saturday night, warning people across the city to stay indoors. Well, turns out that message was only supposed to go out to a few blocks worth of people. Just before 8 Saturday night, phones lit up with the shelter-in-place alert. It included phones as far away as the airport in western Kansas. The message directed people to check the Denver Police X account for more information. Well, anybody who did that found nothing. Bupkis for 45 minutes after the alert went out. So we now know that Denver police issued that shelter in place due to a standoff near DU, and only people within 2 blocks were supposed to get it and take action. Time and time again, experts have warned these wireless emergency alerts do more harm than good when they're sent out willy-nilly to broad areas and don't include specifics.
It leaves a huge gap for people who are trying to understand if the message applies to them, if they're in danger, what's actually happening, what they should be doing about it.
So when Denver sends out wireless emergency alerts, the city often directs people to the X, the Twitter account for the police department or the Office of Emergency Management. Our 9 News Investigates team found that 14 times since August, the department did not post anything explaining what the danger was or whether it had been resolved. Heck of a system you got there, folks. Denver's Public Safety Department says they are reviewing the issue with this past weekend's alert and, quote, working to make sure it doesn't happen again. North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, based in Colorado, wants the world to know they're not invading Greenland today. Today, NORAD announced their aircraft were flying into Greenland to support, quote, various long-planned activities in conjunction with both Canada, the other part of NORAD, and the Kingdom of Denmark, which owns Greenland, much to President Trump's chagrin. This is the kind of disclosure, hey, planes are going to Greenland, that typically would not be needed, except in cases where the President of the United States is actively threatening to take over Greenland, including by force if necessary. President Trump has repeatedly stated his interest in the U.S., quote-unquote, acquiring Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, which has unequivocally rejected his idea. Trump has trouble taking no for an answer. On Friday, Trump threatened to punish other countries, third-party countries, with 10% tariffs if they don't support the U.S. taking control of Greenland. And last night, Trump sent a message to Norway's prime minister saying he, quote, no longer felt an obligation to think purely of peace since Trump didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. Democrats and some Republicans in Washington have introduced some long-shot efforts to try and rein in Trump's foreign policy agenda. Democratic Rep. Jason Crow of Aurora introduced a bipartisan bill last week that would prohibit the use of federal funds for any invasion of a NATO ally. The founding family of Denver's famous Marade, the March/Parade for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., says they will not participate next year. Former Mayor Wellington Webb and his wife, former State Senator Wilma Webb, say the Marade is not enough these days, given the state of civil rights in America. Our Spencer Soischer walked alongside the former mayor today to learn more.
Former Denver Mayor Wellington Webb has done this walk so many times.
As long as we've been doing it.
It's hard to keep track.
What, 41?
The Denver MLK Marade, a march/parade started by his wife Wilma in 1986, continues today.
So it's different.
This year's Marade feels different because it is.
Wilma and I are doing this next year. It is not enough to celebrate King.
Webb is worried about civil rights in this country, and for him, the Marade isn't enough direct action.
Working on issues that King would be working on. If Dr. King were alive, he would be fighting for poor people. He'd be fighting to make sure that there's money for sick people.
The former mayor isn't happy with the president's deportation efforts either.
Said he only wanted to get out criminals, and he wants to get people out of the country that are people of color.
While Webb may not be marching next year, there's a new generation that will continue. Denver's current mayor, Mike Johnston, wants action too.
Today is a day we probably have to start thinking less about the celebration and more about the demonstration.
Johnston wants people to stand up to what he believes are injustices, especially to immigrants.
So continue to ask ourselves the realest and the hardest question, which is what King implores us, is to always ask, if we do not stop to help our fellow man and woman, what might happen to them?
The Marade is part of Wellington and Wilma Webb's legacy, and they hope others follow their path.
I want to maintain control of the United States as a democracy, and to me that's what the march is about.
Just because the Webbs may not participate next year doesn't mean the Marade is going away. An organizer told me this afternoon it's more of a passing of the torch type deal with a younger generation of politicians and area leaders leading the pre-march gatherings, and there were certainly no shortage of those there today, from Congress members down to district attorneys and city council members. Kyle.
I mean, it has become kind of the place for folks to be seen in, activist circles, right, in recent years. But noteworthy that the Webbs that have had their stamp on this for 40 years now are going to let other folks lead.
Yeah, I think it's their time to try and do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Spencer Soischer, thank you. And thank all of you for your recent generosity supporting Breakthrough, a nonprofit that helps Coloradans leaving prison succeed in their second chance in life. Between your one-time donations last week and your recurring gifts to the Word of Thanks Fund each month, you've raised about $50,000 to support their work. You have donated $17 million plus for nonprofits across Colorado since 2020. We're coming up on our 300th consecutive weekly campaign. That'll be the beginning of March. So I would remind you that a lot of these micro-giving campaigns start with your suggestions, and we take it from there. We get in touch, we go through their financials, we talk to their leadership. So tell me more about nonprofits in Colorado that have earned your volunteer time or earned your donations. We might be able to bring them to a wider audience. Email next at 9news.com or text next at 303-871-1491. Heck of a start for a new Aurora City Council member who met some members of the police department when they popped him for DUI over the weekend. Denver's Audubon Society doesn't just do bird watching. Soon they can also watch your children.
If it's raining, we're outside, we're playing in the mud. If it's snowing, we're building snow people.
An idea for a new outdoor preschool in Colorado. Next. A newly elected city council member in Aurora, a member of the new progressive majority there, is facing drunk driving charges after he was arrested Saturday night. Aurora police say they pulled over Rob Andrews after they saw his truck weaving between lanes and making wide turns. Andrews failed the sobriety test and was placed in a detox hold at the jail overnight. In a post on Facebook, he apologized, said he takes full responsibility for his decision, and that he's grateful no one was hurt. Andrews is an at-large council member, serves as chair of the Public Safety Committee, so that's going to be awkward. Municipal elections in Colorado are technically nonpartisan, but Andrews is a Democrat, part of the progressive sweep of contested seats in November after years of conservative control in Aurora. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi is along, and a pretty decent chance of seeing a little light show tonight, perhaps?
Yeah, a chance of it, Kyle, and probably your best bet will be to use your phone, your smartphone, will have the best chance at capturing the northern lights. Just saw a report from Alabama, from northern Alabama, of the northern lights being visible from a smartphone down there. So what's going on right now? Largest solar radiation storm since 2003, but that does not guarantee us seeing the northern lights. You need to have the magnetic field aligned in the correct manner as well. That does not appear to be the case. So this doesn't at this point appear to be as spectacular of a show as what we had in November, but still, if you want to capture the northern lights, get away from the city lights, get away from the light pollution, go as far north as you possibly can, and hopefully you'll be able to at least see it from your phone. Best time between about now and midnight. Good news is Mother Nature going to cooperate in terms of that show. Basically not a cloud in the sky, so if you want to be able to see it, this is tomorrow afternoon when we get those clouds back in the picture, but no issue with those clouds for tonight. Tomorrow, mostly clear with temperatures in the low to mid-50s. It'll turn windy in the foothills, but in Denver, those winds stay mainly light. And that 7-day forecast, it will cool down significantly for us Friday and Saturday, with some snow showers possible for us Friday night and to Saturday. That Broncos forecast still TBD. I would lean on the colder side of the current computer forecast models because of the fact that it looks like this trough low pressure is going to stick around, but still a little TBD on that, but certainly looking on the colder side with mountain snow returning for Friday and Saturday, and maybe a bit for us in Denver as well.
Man, I wonder how Chris Bianchi and I lost our voices. A new state law is paving the way for more kids to get outdoors, not just to play, but to learn. Outdoor nature-based preschool might sound like something your crunchy neighbor's doing with their homeschoolers, but formal schools like that could soon become more common due to newly passed rules and regs. The bird watchers at Denver Audubon have an idea, and they took us for a hike.
Yeah, you found one. That's awesome. This is a bug house. So there's a baby bug inside there. Yeah, I think most people know that kids are getting a lot of screen time these days. Being outside in nature, kids are naturally very physical. So they like to run, they like to climb, they like to jump. Yeah, Denver Audubon is a nonprofit. Our mission is to protect birds and their habitat. We do have programs for parents with little kids, so 4 and under, a little TOTS program. We're starting the Denver Audubon Nature Preschool. This is gonna be a fully outdoor preschool for kids between 3 and 6 years old. And they're gonna get to learn here at the Kingery Nature Center from September through May. Yeah, so outdoor pre-K means that we learn outside every day. If it's raining, we're outside, we're playing in the mud. If it's snowing, we're building snow people. Denver Audubon is all about birds and their habitats, so we're really excited to bring that knowledge to kids. I had a kid the other day see a dead bird in a parking lot, and her mom was saying, "Oh no, we're so sad that bird is dead," and her daughter goes, "Oh no, we're not sad, that's food for the turkey vulture." So, you know, they're really starting to understand understand the cycle of life. Look at that, look at the spikes. We need our youngest citizens to care. We need them to be connected to the world around them.
The spikes are gonna grow out there.
Oh. It's those kind of citizens that are gonna allow Colorado to keep being this beautiful state where we can recreate outdoors and have access to trails and mountains and, you know, beauty, really, that natural beauty. Anybody else living on there?
No.
No.
Guess not.
Denver Audubon plans to start their program this September. The state expects 20 outdoor pre-K programs throughout Colorado. Tonight, we remember the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who did not beg and plead for his Nobel Peace Prize. And when he received it, he sent the world about a message about why war and violence happen. This Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, as the Nobel Peace Prize is in the news in unusual ways, it's worth reflecting on when Dr. King received the award. The Nobel Committee chairman praised King for showing the world that a struggle can be waged without violence. That was 1964, 4 years before King was murdered by a white racist. Here in 2026, President Donald Trump says one reason he's threatening to take over Greenland by force if necessary is because he has not been given the Nobel Peace Prize he so desperately wants. Last week, the most recent recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize gave Trump her medal in an attempt to win his favor. In 1964, Dr. King refused to accept the Nobel Peace Prize solely for himself. He accepted it on behalf of America's civil rights movement. In his speech in Oslo, he reminded the world that violence, racism, and war are not inevitable. They are choices.
Nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time. The need for man to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to violence and oppression. Civilization and violence are antithetical concepts. Nonviolence is not sterile passivity, but a powerful moral force which makes for social transformation. Sooner or later, all the peoples of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace. I refuse to accept the idea that man is mere flotsam and jetsam in the river of life, unable to influence the unfolding events which surround him. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. I still believe that one day mankind will bow before the altars of God and be crowned triumphant over war and bloodshed and nonviolent redemptive goodwill proclaim the rule of the land.
Robert just dropped us an email with appreciation that we played portions of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1964 acceptance of the Nobel Peace Prize before the committee in Oslo. And Robert, it's interesting. I feel like, you know, we know so many of King's speeches from rallies and from the pulpit, and that's such a different setting, right? Kind of like that formal event setting. But I just thought what he said was really powerful, and I'm glad that you appreciate hearing it as well. Chuck says, well done, Marshall, for digging deep into the language of Tina Peters' paperwork and explaining it so that even I could understand it. Judy writes, another reason I like you, you use words I understand, like willy-nilly. Judy, we aim for clear language, and willy-nilly is very clear.